So I imagine you already know this if you're looking up how to reverse diet after a calorie deficit, but before I get into the exact how-to, I want to explain why you should reverse diet after a cut and the benefits it brings. What you need to understand is anytime you go through a dieting phase, there are hormonal changes and metabolic suppressions that happen inside the body. Because of this, not only are your maintenance calories lower than they should be, even beyond just what would be predicted by the amount of weight lost, but chances are you're going to be more tired, cranky, hungry, etc., thanks to the changes in your hormones. So the problem is if you don't gradually increase your calories up with a reverse diet, you're left with basically two choices. Either you have to stay on these really low calories, continue to feel like crap, and basically do that forever if you want to maintain your results, or you start eating a lot more right away, but because your metabolism is suppressed, you gain fat quickly. So reverse dieting allows you to get your calories up to recover from the dieting, as well as allow more balance and flexibility in your life while minimizing the amount of body fat you gain during the process. Note, I said minimize, not no gain at all. You should be okay with adding a small amount of weight back during this process and not get so caught up in trying to stay the exact same weight forever. Weight maintenance is more of a range over a longer period of time, and living your life being terrified of weight gain is no way to live. And if you do that, you can't even enjoy the results you had, and we all need some balance and flexibility in our lives. Plus, understand the first couple pounds you gain, that's things like water and glycogen being replenished in your muscles, and that's a good thing. Okay, with that all in mind, let's talk about how to start your reverse diet after a cut, and then we'll get into how to make adjustments on a weekly basis after that. So the first week is typically the bigger increase in calories, but that depends on what's most important to you. Getting the benefits of the reverse diet faster, things like feeling better, enjoying more food and flexibility, performing better, having more energy, probably sleeping better, all these things, or minimizing weight gain as much as possible. Because that is the trade-off of a faster or slower pace. The faster you increase calories, the more likely you're gonna get those benefits faster, but the more likely you are to gain. The slower you increase calories, the longer it's gonna take to get the benefits, but the less likely you are to gain. The other consideration to make is how well you were losing when you stopped the cut. If you were seeing good results, then you can more realistically make bigger changes because you were in a good calorie deficit, so it makes it safer to make larger increases. If you were stalled out when you stopped the cut, now your body was pretty adapted to this, so you have to be a little bit more cautious if you don't want to gain too much weight. So, if you were losing, there's a couple ways you can look at your initial increase, and again, some of it comes down to your own personal strategies. If you don't mind staying lower calorie and taking your time, especially if you want to do everything you can to minimize weight gain, it can be smart to take a slower approach and even kind of technically keep yourself in a calorie deficit in the early stages. And what this does is it allows you to continue to lose a little weight while you increase calories and kind of create some wiggle room, so to speak, for down the road when you do start gaining some weight, it'll just bring you back to where you started. If that's you, then I would add in maybe around 150 calories that first week, and then monitor and adjust as I'll talk about later in this video. Otherwise, if you want to jump up closer to maintenance right away, then there's a couple ways I recommend doing this. Either using the numbers you would use for like a refeed or a diet break and starting with that, or you can use the 3,500 calories is 1 pound of fat equation. So for instance, if you were losing around a half a pound a week, so with 7 days a week, 500 calories a day would be a change of 1 pound, then you can make an increase of around 250 calories. This isn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but good enough to give you a start. And again, you can go up or down from that a little bit based on what's most important to you. Now, if you were maintaining at the end of the cut, now you know this is your rough maintenance calories, because don't forget, your maintenance calories is a moving target, so you need to forget about what used to be your maintenance calories. That's no longer the case. And since this is your maintenance, you want to make smaller adjustments. However, with that being said, it's pretty rare that I'll make a smaller increase than 100 calories to start a reverse diet. And the reason for this is you're likely to get sort of a kick up in hormones and metabolism when you start increasing calories. And what happens is you start recovering better, sleeping better, performing better, moving around more, just everything starts to kind of get upregulated, so to speak. So if you don't make at least somewhat of a significant increase right off the bat, my fear is your body won't really even realize you're making any changes, and it could take a long time for things to start improving. Of course, the more you know yourself and how your body typically responds is helpful here, and this is why I can't just say it's the same for everybody. Some people have metabolisms that adapt really fast, some people it's a little bit slower. If your metabolism adapts fast, that's great for a reverse diet because you can make bigger increases and your body just keeps up with it, and you can keep increasing pretty well and seeing minimal changes. Great for a reverse, not so great for a cut, because then when you cut calories, you have to make more adjustments quickly. If you're someone with a slowly adaptive metabolism, it's harder to reverse diet without gaining because your body has a hard time keeping up, but it's a benefit when you're cutting because now when you make changes, you can hold them and your body will keep responding for a longer period of time. So if you've noticed any of these trends in the past, it can help you determine whether you should take a faster or slower approach. Anyway, if you aren't comfortable adding in 100 calories right off the bat, or you want to do everything you can to maintain as best as possible, then you can just start your reverse diet with the normal weekly adjustments, which I'm gonna cover right now. Okay, to know how fast to increase calories on a weekly basis, it's important you monitor your weight, but also understand weight isn't everything, so also pay attention to things like pictures, measurements, how your clothes are fitting, things like that, because it is possible, especially in the early reverse phase, to possibly see some improvements in body composition even with the weight going up as your muscles become more full with glycogen, so you don't only want to look at the scale. But we do want to watch our weight and pay attention to that, and with weight, I highly recommend you weigh yourself daily, first thing in the morning, after going to the bathroom, and before eating or drinking anything, as this is the most consistent time of the day. And then you take an average for the week and count that as your actual weight that you look at each week to compare to the previous week and make adjustments on that. The problem with a weekly weigh-in, like a lot of people do, is you're just taking one snapshot in time and comparing that. And the problem is your weight can fluctuate up to several pounds on a daily basis based on changes in water weight that have nothing to do with body fat. So you could be abnormally high one week, abnormally low the next week, or vice versa, and that skews everything. Plus, I find mentally people are able to handle the scale much better by just taking that average and not getting so caught up in any single day. So after each week, when you compare this week to the previous week, if you're maintaining your weight, I recommend making an increase 30 to 60 calories for the following week. If you're gaining weight, you may want to hold steady and not make any increases, or maybe up to 20 or 30 calories just to keep the process going. Again, it always depends on what's most important to you. Or if you're losing weight, then I would add 50 to 100 or even more than 100 calories. Keeping in mind, the more weight you're losing, the safer it is to make larger increases. And again, I can't stress enough, these are just rough guidelines. It's all about what's most important to you and the trade-off that you're willing to make. And that's why I kind of give ranges, but you don't even have to stay within these ranges. You can make changes however you want, just understand the risk reward. And as far as cardio goes, you're likely going to want to taper that down, but stick around to the end of this video to find out how to adjust that. Also, just to be clear, because this gets confused a lot, when I say making calorie increases, this is how many calories you'll eat each day for the week. So say for instance, if you're eating 1,500 calories daily, if you made a 50 calorie increase, now you're going to eat 1,550 calories each day the following week. Now, you don't have to eat exactly 1,550 calories every day, and I personally recommend taking an average for the week so you can eat a bit more or less on a daily basis as long as that average works out. And keep in mind, your maintenance calories, it's kind of like a range, maybe around 100 below or above what you're actually doing. So we don't want to get so caught up in needing to be perfect. Is there benefit in being consistent and keeping things close? Absolutely, but not at the cost of potentially getting yourself into a bad place mentally and falling into binging behavior because you feel too restricted or get caught up in trying to be perfect. Which, speaking of the mental side of things, I do, however, recommend that you look at the first 2 or 3 months or so of the reverse diet as basically like an extension of your cut. Keep in mind that your focus is now changing from fat loss to eating more food now. So mentally, there's a huge change here, and it can be difficult to keep things in check when you don't have that goal of fat loss. Plus, physiologically speaking, your body's screaming at you to eat. Hunger is often actually worse in a reverse than it is in a cut, but if you don't stay diligent in the early part of the process, things can get out of hand quickly, and it's pretty common for people to struggle the most during this phase than any phase. Which, it makes sense. I mean, you're probably over diligently paying attention to food at this point, especially without seeing the result, but I'm telling you, it's so important, and staying diligent in this part of the process can do wonders for your long-term results, especially if you want to minimize weight gain and get calories as high as possible. Honestly, if you do this right, there's kind of like a magic window post-cut and early reverse diet, where like I said, everything starts to upregulate and things improve quickly. And if you stay true to the process, you can get your calories up relatively quickly and often keep your weight down well. Some people even lose in the earlier stages. Not something that I would want you to expect, but it is possible. And the more diligent you are, the more likely this stuff is. And this is how you get your calories nice and high and keep your weight down. If you struggle and have a lot of ups and downs and you keep overeating, what ends up happening is you're gonna start gaining weight quicker. Because you're gaining weight, you have a hard time getting calories up because you don't wanna bring your calories up because you're gaining too fast. And it becomes this loop of overeat, gain weight, keep calories the same, overeat, gain weight, keep calories the same, and you don't get anywhere. So do your best to stay true to the process here. And remember, the time for more food and flexibility will come. And if you really want to be able to eat a lot more food and keep weight stable, this is how you do it. Which, speaking of adherence, you do want to factor this into your weekly calorie decisions, because if you're having a hard time adhering and you feel like your calories are too low to realistically stick to and you keep overeating, you're actually better off creating a higher calorie target that you'll actually stick to, because you'll actually consume less total calories by doing this. So many people get caught up in target calories, but it's not your target calories that matter. It's your actual consumed calories, regardless of if you track it or not. By the way, quickly going back to the upregulation of metabolism. One thing to watch for if things are going really well and you're getting your calories up super fast and you just can't believe how well the process is going, at some point, this kind of like hyperinflation of metabolism will probably come back down to normal again. This is a little more common in people who are really lean, especially like competitors, which this isn't really geared towards competitors, but I'm just saying people who are really lean will see this more often. And what happens is at a certain point, it comes back down and all of a sudden you can't keep eating these higher calories and you start gaining even though you were maintaining before. If you see this, you may need to knock your calories back by maybe around 10% or so just to get things to stabilize again. But do not make the mistake of going back into a deficit to try to get rid of any weight that was gained during the process. Huge, huge mistake, and it will undo all your hard work. And of course, be honest about your adherence too before dropping calories. Now, as far as how high to get your calories, it really depends on your goals, and of course, genetics play a huge factor. But if you're just looking to roughly maintain, then just kind of get them up to a good place where you're happy with things, you're satisfied with everything, and everything's going well. If you're trying to set yourself up for another cut down the road, that's a bit different. You're gonna wanna try to get them a bit higher. But balancing all this and knowing how high to get them and when to stop or reverse is kind of challenging. But I do have a card up here you can click that will bring you to a video that explains when to end your reverse diet and be okay to diet again. Now, I did mention we need to factor in cardio into the equation here, as you will likely need to taper your cardio down, especially if you're doing a lot. So to find out how to handle cardio during a reverse diet, check out this top video next, and I'll walk you through how to do that. If you're interested in online coaching to walk you through a reverse diet, apply at my website in the description. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments, and I'll see you next time.